We're going to make a semolina spinach souffle. There's all the ingredients. Freshly cooked spinach, milk, a little white pepper, a little salt, butter, the eggs, and a 2-quart souffle dish. So let's get started. We're going to cook the flour, which I forgot to put over here. So we have the semolina, but you can use regular flour, but I'm using semolina because I want to. And I'm going to cook this with the milk, and then after we take that off the fire, we're going to fold in the egg yolks, and then soon after that we're going to whip up the whites to a peak, fold everything together. The chopped spinach is going to go in when I fold in the whites because it's cooked already, and if you put raw spinach in there, you have to figure how much moisture the spinach is going to put in, and it makes it really complicated. So when you use cooked fresh spinach, you won't have that problem. So let's get this out of the way first. We got to separate the whites, and I'm separating 7. The yolks, I'm using 7. I find the easiest way is just to work back and forth like that. 2 of the yolks I won't be using for this recipe. And just go like so. And continue. So the 9 egg whites will be going in there. The 7 egg yolks will be going in here. That's the correct temperature for a convection oven. You set it for 375, it'll give you 350. And if it's a regular oven, leave it at 375 because that's what convection ovens do. It's always 25 degrees less than a regular oven. And meanwhile, that's ready. The egg whites are ready. The egg yolk is ready. And now we'll go about cooking the milk. And the milk I preheated in the convection in the microwave, so I don't have to stand over the stove waiting for it to simmer in a pot. And while all this is getting ready, take butter and butter the inside of the souffle dish. Now I am going to use a water bath, even though a lot of people don't, and I'm using the water bath because I don't want to have real brown egg inside of the dish. I'd like to have it very nice and light and soft. And the milk is ready. So we'll put that hot steamy milk, which came up in no time, and the salt and the pepper was in with that. And now we'll put the flour. And allow this to simmer for about 10 minutes. I find it much easier getting the milk hot, if you notice that it's already thickening. You spend less time over a pot, and remember, a thick bottom pot to use, and also it just seems to be easier, and that's what cooking is all about. Make it easier and still make it good. Otherwise you'd be standing here, you're going to put cold milk in there, and you're going to be standing waiting until it simmers, and now it's already simmering. So we're going to let this cook, and this is probably the most difficult part aside from whipping up the whites, but this is not a big deal. If the ratio of everything is correct, put the flame on low, just give me little bubbles, And remember to use a thick bottom sauce pot. There's one thing you don't want to do when you're dealing with, actually this is like a bechamel. You don't want to have it scorch on you. And the butter goes in there, I forgot. Okay, so the ingredients in here are really the same. It's a roux, but it's put together differently. Instead of making the roux first, the ingredients go in separately into here, but work the same way. But as you see, it's much smoother. With the roux, you could have lumps in there. So we'll let that simmer for 10 minutes. This is cooking. I chopped the spinach up, but not very fine, because you want to see it in there. You don't want to have it like chopped parsley. And every few minutes, just give it a stir. Nice and thick, beautiful. Now you could use regular flour, but I'm using the semolina because I like the color and I like the flavor. Okay, so now this is done. Nothing stuck in the bottom. Nice and thick and smooth. And now we're going to add the egg yolks to this. I actually wait another minute or two. I hate adding egg yolks to something very, very hot like that. But there are quite a few egg yolks, so the egg yolks themselves will cool this off. And this whipping cools it too. Anyway, the mix is hot, and there go the egg yolks. So now that this part of the recipe is complete, well, what we can do is taste this. Well, this is not a dessert souffle where you just put sugar. This is a souffle with spinach, so you want to have a little flavor in there. Oh, you could put a few herbs in there if you wanted, but I'm not putting anything but the spinach. And this has to cool down. Now you can either keep on whipping it like this, or you can put this in the refrigerator, but the quickest way to cool it down is to put it in an ice bath. Cold water and ice, and stir, and within, I would say, no more than 10 minutes, this will be nice and cool. You don't have to keep on stirring it. Stirring it a little, go away. So do this until it's cool. I'm going to remove it from the stove because the stove is warm. As I was thinking about this recipe, everything I do is on the fly. But it's not a cheese souffle, but you know what? Spinach and cheese go delicious together. So I added right into the egg yolk mix 3 tablespoons of pecorino romano cheese, just to give it that little cheesy flavor to go along with the spinach. So that's done. And it's cool, and it didn't even take not even 7 minutes to cool down. So we already have the mix here, cold. Now I'm going to beat up the whites. The whites have been sitting out since we started, so they're not ice cold. And use whatever you like, a KitchenAid, which I have, but I find this little hand mixer. You can do this by hand. And you have to keep that up until they become stiff. And while I'm whipping, I never do it straight down like this. You want to incorporate as much air in as possible, so I turn it sideways. And it just works faster. So when do you know when the whites are ready? When you have stiff peaks like that. Because if you overdo it, then it breaks. So the next step is to fold this into the mixture that we have, but I don't dump it in all at once. I'll take some of it. Fold this just by turning. Just remember, the whites don't have any taste. It's not as if we're making a sweet dessert souffle where you put sugar. So you have to season the mix. And if it takes more than a teaspoon of salt and a little more pepper in with the egg yolks, then you do it. Now, you almost made me forget the spinach. And I'll be popping this in the oven without the spinach, and that wouldn't work so well. But we have plenty of time, and this is about when I wanted to put it in anyway. Should have added the just before the egg whites, but it'll work. But don't do what I do. Add it right after the egg whites. I mean the egg yolk is cooled down. Put the spinach, mix it up, and now the rest of the stiffly beaten. Fold this, and not too long. We'll put it in the dish and pop it in the oven. Usually when I make souffles when I'm at work, I use my hands, but we don't want to do that because your fingers go through this nice and easy. Okay, that's it. Now we'll pour this into the souffle dish. And this might be too much because this is going to come up. So it will come up, and then you serve it immediately. Now we're going to go in the oven. Like I said, a little water pan. Now you didn't have to put that other pan under it, it just happened to be there, and that's where it stays. That's my griddle. So now we're going to set the timer and wait. You can tell when the souffle is done when it comes up and breaks open. Gives you a nice, look at that. Let's put some on a plate. That's taken 1 hour and 15 minutes. And the water bath, why? So the edges, I can show you the edge. Alright, that's enough for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Isn't that nice? But if you notice the inside over here, if you don't put a water bath, I'm sorry, you're going to get more of a crust. So this way, we don't have a crust, but we have a nice light souffle. The sliced taste of the cheese, it's like so nice. And I like the semolina flour in there. I hope you enjoy this. Dry. I shouldn't say dry, I should say moist but not wet. Cooked fully. And that's plenty of spinach, but if you wanted to add more, you could. And you could do this with anything. Add whatever you want to it. Instead of spinach, maybe what? Broccoli. But I wouldn't cook the broccoli. Broccoli's a little different. Doesn't give off moisture like the spinach does. If I put carrots in there, well, first off, I would most likely puree the carrots, cook them, puree them, and then put them in the mix, and you have a beautiful orange-colored souffle. So enjoy.